Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another video. So it's upon us, the big aspect of 2024 being the Jupiter Uranus conjunction at 21 Taurus. So as I look at the real-time clock on my other monitor over here, we do have both of these planets at 21 Taurus, and that aspect will perfect over the upcoming few days. So I'll chat a little bit about that and give you some sort of collective perspectives and how we can filter those themes into your own birth chart. And before I get into that, I just want to make a quick announcement that on May 17 in Australia, will be the 16th in other parts of the globe, I'm going to be offering a Jupiter in Gemini webinar. So we're going to be looking at what it means to have a planet in detriment. We'll have a look at some of the messiness, as well as the opportunities that Jupiter in Gemini has to offer. No bias here, but I am quite qualified in the ways of Jupiter and Gemini because that's the planet that conjoins my ascendant. So I've got plenty of real life examples, or not that it's going to be all about me, of course, but a perspective of what it can mean to blend the technical and the philosophical and what that might mean for us over the next 12 months and how that's going to prepare or pave the pathway for Uranus's ingress into Gemini, which is going to happen mid next year. So it really is all about Jupiter and Uranus right now. So in respect to my webinar, I'll pop a link in the show notes below where you can see the details and sign up. So Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, we've arrived. So the way that I like to look at these cycles, Jupiter and Uranus conjoin roughly about every 13 years. And we can see that is a new moon cycle of these two planets that will bring new innovations, expansion, especially around technology, around arts, around the ideas of morality, of law, and truth. That can really show up under Jupiter Uranus cycles. It really is this kind of quantum leap or this giant leap into some future progress. And the last one that we had happened at 26 degrees of Pisces in 2010. And our next one's going to happen at 23 Cancer, 2037, if my memory serves me correctly. So that will give you a little bit of an idea of the one that was previous, the one that's happening now, of course, which we'll discuss, and the one that's upcoming. So when I think about the sign of Taurus, obviously, we've had Uranus there since 2018. We had that preview ingress from, I think it was May to November, and then it was March 2019. We've had Uranus in Taurus through the whole time. So that has perhaps innovated, changed, shaken up, things that we like to be really stable. I mean, I don't know about you, but where I live, the prices of everything that are the basic norms of living, food, shelter, clothing, has really been it's changed a lot. Okay. There's obviously been other factors involved with that. But I think that there is going to be a new cycle around what wealth, what abundance really means. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about Taurus, it has a lot with our ability to be able to eat. So in some ways, I think we're going to see a lot of changes under this cycle around our levels of comfort. We've talked about that as astrologers a lot back in 2018. And yes, there was some disruptions, of course, to comfort over the past several years. But I feel like the security, the stability that we have got used to enjoying is collectively has almost been an anomaly. The way that we live now, historically, has never existed before. So I think there is going to be a lot of shifts, a lot of changes for that. Some of them are going to be positive, some of them not going to be so positive. But the idea is that there's going to be a lot of instability in the areas that we like to be stabilized. we can look at those collective themes, which are quite apparent and quite obvious, and then we sort of filtrate them into the house of our birth chart and think about, okay, where have I been really stable, really comfortable, but maybe not feeling so comfortable or so stable right now? Where am I really bursting for change, but not willing to shift my perspective, my opinion, or my idea of what wealth, comfort, stability looks like? It's a little bit like asking for change, but not wanting to do anything to bring those changes about. And this is where this conjunction can really help. Um, and I think it can also really help you stay grounded over the next, we could call these cycles, let's just say, a decade and change. um, how we can stay grounded and stable as Jupiter moves through Gemini, and continues to move through. But then, most importantly, Uranus moving into Gemini, where we get that volatility of air coming through. So, this is sort of almost, this cycle is a little bit of a seed planting cycle of the last remnants of the Earth era. Obviously, yes, we have a little bit of a comeback from Pluto in Capricorn, but I do feel that this is a 13-year cycle of let's not lose our basis in reality as the world changes exponentially moving forward. So if I was to kind of hashtag this conjunction, it's almost like this radical return to simplicity. Remember when COVID was happening and there was a certain return to stability, simplicity, I should say. And then, of course, we all kind of jumped back on that hamster wheel and have not stopped going ever since. And of course, a part of that has been through necessity, with everything being so much more expensive now. But that is a cycle that you sort of have to start wondering, like, how long can this kind of go on? And it's obvious when you have a look around, there are a lot of things changing, and a lot of uh, areas that have been stable are no longer stable. And so when we personalize this, it's like, are you really comfortable in your comfort zone? So, 2018, a lot of fracturedness around stability and security. One of the ways I like to look at Jupiter as the greater benefic is, and sometimes I think Jupiter gets a little bit, choose my words carefully here, a little bit over exaggerated in its capacity to deliver the goods. Okay. And yeah, he certainly can, but you've got to factor in some other components. So Jupiter is about perspective shifting. It's about stretching, growing, learning, exploring, discovering. It has a real sort of spiritual, religious component to it as well. It's the way that we can view our lives differently through the wisdom of learning and experiences. And when it's in Taurus, Taurus doesn't want to change. It wants to stay exactly the same. So Jupiter in Taurus, while yes, there's the double benefic feature, it is a little bit contradicted to each other, because Jupiter just wants to grow and expand and explore and enjoy that sort of philosophical exploration, or even the literal exploration. Whereas Taurus wants to stay really practical, grounded in reality. And, I've got my little corner here and I'm not budging. So there is that sort of uncomfortability, even though that's not a word, but there is that discomfort that comes through. Then we get, Uranus in the mix. And I get this image of, the bull and the branding iron. The bull was fine, or the cow was, she was sweet, just basking in the pastures, eating the grass. But once the farmer comes along with the branding iron, boom, she's off. She's moving into a new pasture with a sore hip. So that can sort of feel like this Jupiter Uranus and conjunction. And that change can be very uncomfortable initially. But of course, once that dust settles, more often than not, you're very glad for having made that change in particular. So, Jupiter can bring some back to the idea of Jupiter, can also bring like a repair balm. It can help to make improvements, bring some affirmation or life affirming influences to an area that of life for you that's been unstable, uncomfortable, restless, trying to seek your out. I feel like the bull that's kind of, in those rodeos where or even where what the matadors do, where the bull is kind of locked in this small cage and then it's let out to do what it does in that ring. So that's the sort of energy. There can be this restlessness, and then Jupiter comes along, offers a repair, offers a leg up. It offers some kind of life affirming influence that sort of says to the bull, hey, you're out now. Here's the direction you need to take, particularly if you've been a bit hesitant or reluctant or even recalcitrant in the respect of embarking on changes. So Jupiter can just give you that little bit of buoyancy, the hope, the optimism, a little bit of faith to make a change and feel uplifted or feel inspired or motivated that the change that you're making is going to take you in the right direction. Because one thing I've seen a lot with reading clients is, who are impacted by, the Jupiter and Taurus cycle, the Uranus and Taurus cycle, is that they can be risk shy, and that sometimes the actuality of the situation is the biggest risk is to take none at all. And so, if you just sit still, don't strike while the iron's hot, then you can miss out on a pretty exciting opportunity. So if you have been resistant, Jupiter can just give you that little bit of, oomph or a little bit of a leg up in going, hey, I can do this. Now, if you're on the other side of that equation where you're looking back at your life since around 2018, 2019, just throwing your hands up in the air and say, I don't want any more changes. I'm done. I'm tired. I just want to go back to some kind of new normal. Jupiter can help you with that. Jupiter can help stabilize things, which is what he ultimately wants to do, bring a little bit of coherence or help bring that, the dust settling feature, help that to happen a little bit quicker. So, the changing of perspectives, incorporating new wisdom, or welcoming innovation is also very much a part of this cycle. When we think about this being a new moon and starting over the, a cycle for the next 13 years or so, it's sort of a little bit hard to say, are these changes going to happen real slow because it's Taurus? Or is it going to happen really fast because it's Uranus and then Jupiter's going to bolster that? I think personally, things are going to shift real quick. We're talking about a 13-year cycle, and I think it will be by the time Uranus moves into Gemini, in July of next year for the preview cycle, that we'll start to really see the changes that are simmering now take effect. And then you might think, oh, but that's a year from now and the conjunction's happening now. But when you think about this is the new moon of a 13-year cycle, it's a short period of time to say it's only going to take 1 year out of 13 to take place. It's also at the tail end of the Jupiter and the Uranus cycle. So this is happening at 21 Taurus. So I do feel that things will be exactly what we would expect, a little bit slow to get started initially. Like, I don't know if there's going to be sort of any, there will be obvious manifestations of this from a collective or a mundane standpoint. But when you're talking about your own life, I feel like it's going to be, you get to the end of, the next 12 months, and then you really start to see just how much progress you've made, because Taurus moves slowly, it plods along. And sometimes we really don't realize how far we've gone in one particular direction until we look back. And that will be next year in particular. And also too, in another way, I think it's almost going to be a little bit tricky to be able to fully delineate the difference between the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus and the ingress of Jupiter in Gemini, because they do create a quickening, a hastening, a speeding up of things. So I feel like things will probably happen a little bit more quick rather than slow. And that's also going to add to the discomfort levels for some people, while others who might be feeling restless or trapped in a cage type of feeling, like, let me out. This can really help. Jupiter can help just sort of, set you free in a sense and bring that boost of optimism or freedom or exploration back to the picture. So sort of coming back to some of the reality on the ground of, what can we do about this? So, we can look at our astrology, we can look at timing, we can look at cycles, and we can sometimes feel at the whim of the planets, right? Particularly when you're newer into astrology, you can look at this and think, the sky is falling down. And there's so much negative astrological talk out there. Obviously, negative talk satisfies an algorithm. It spreads faster than the good news. There's a cool kids club portion of it too. Everyone's saying the same thing, so no one's going out on a limb. Um, so, take some stuff with a grain of salt. So I feel that with Jupiter in Uranus, take a deep breath, slow down, ground yourself, because once Jupiter moves into Gemini and then Uranus follows suit, we're really then thrown into the thrust of the element of air. So this is sort of our last earthly hurrah, as I mentioned before. So, take a moment to kind of ground yourself in the basics of reality. I've found myself quite a lot recently saying to people, and I've also heard it in other non-astrologically related material that I podcasts and the like, is, what's the reality on the ground? It's so Uranus and Taurus with Jupiter. And I feel that as we move forward with so much air, I know in Australia, we're definitely going down the digital, the digital tyranny path. And that'll happen in other places too. You jump online, you don't know what's true anymore. You don't know what's real. And I feel that's going to get messier and messier. And while we can't control what happens in those departments, we can certainly control how we feel about it. And so Taurus is very much, catching your breath again, staying grounded, enjoying the simple pleasures, all the five senses and things of that nature. But we're also talking Jupiter here, Jupiter in Taurus, and getting back to the reality of the ground of what is truth, which is very much what Jupiter is about: truth, morality, justice, and ethics as well. And so it doesn't appear to exist very much anymore. Words can mean whatever you want them to mean based on a fleeting feeling or a popular idea. So, the digital reality is changing all the time. Words are changing all the time. Definitions are changing all the time. And truth seems to depend now on who can lie the most effectively, who can control information, who can control what truth comes out. So it's either who lies the most effectively or who lies the most loudly. And so in the modern era, the radical act is to tell the truth. It's always been, but hey, even more so now, or standing up for your reality as opposed to whatever the ideology is or whatever the latest thing is. So I say this because this is the seeding moment of the next 12 to 13 years. So it's 2037 is the next one. So can we stay grounded in truth and in reality and authenticity as we move into an increasingly digital world that can very much be morphed, shifted, manipulated, and changed. So it might be just about taking a radical stand in your personal life as per your Taurus part of your chart. So, for some of us, it might be career and life direction. For some, it's finances. When everyone's telling you, don't do this with your money, and you go, yeah, maybe I will. Maybe it's a relationship for you. Maybe it's dealing with areas of home and family. So look to your Taurus house and think, how can I get really honest and simple, but still based in sort of faith and morality and moving forward with what's true for you from your heart as opposed to what you're told. And I think that's going to be really important for many of us as we move through into what promises to be a little bit more of a messier cycle in the upcoming few years, indeed. So that's a little bit of my rant about Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. I do hope it's offered you a little bit of different perspective of what you might have seen out there. There's so much more I can say, and I've been talking about that so much inside the Golden Circle. So if you would like to, sit in and contribute to some of those juicier discussions, and to also offer your own insights as well and sharing in that experience, jump in. I would love to have you there. And of course, all the links will be in the description below. And as always, I'd love to hear your feedback and comments. Are you feeling more radically obstinate, perhaps, with this? Are you returning to a sense of truth and groundedness when the world is kind of shouting at you? I'd love to hear the changes, the shifting perspectives, and the new opportunities that you might be experiencing in your life in the comments below. So leave me a comment. I love to read them, even if I don't get a chance to reply to them all. So until next time, I hope you enjoy the conjunction, and do think longer term with this. I would give it a good decade. All right, until next time, see you then.